Okay, this is part two of the second geography lesson. As you can tell by the screen, we're going to be talking about maps. So here's a map that I think is meant to be kind of funny. It shows you what each country leads the world in. So you can see America leads by Nobel laureates and getting killed by lawnmowers. Brazil has the most FIFA World Cup titles. Here in Argentina, they must eat a lot of beef. We've got velociraptor bones, caves, bunch of random things around here. You can pause it and look at more if you're interested in that. But we're going to see different kinds of maps, and some are obviously more useful than others. What is a map? It's a flat drawing that shows all or part of the Earth's surface. And are they always accurate? No, but that's too bad because it's a lot easier to fold up a map and be able to use that than to carry around a round globe with us everywhere we go, because globes are just too big and bulky and they're too far zoomed out. So maps do have their imperfections, but that's just something that we learn to deal with. So different types of maps. There's three key types: that be political, physical, and thematic. And the fourth type is a mental map. When you're picturing a map in your head, that's a mental map. So those aren't always accurate, but as you progress through this class more and you become more familiar with the world as far as continents and oceans and countries and states and then just physical features, your mental map will begin to develop and you'll have a better picture of the world as a whole in your head. So we'll go through each of those. Here's an example of a political map. It shows us countries on this one. It could also show us states or cities, but basically it's showing us borders. So a political map shows us where a government has said, this is where our country ends and your country begins. So it's kind of like people claiming land. The continents would be the shape that they are no matter what, but humans design the shape of countries. A physical map shows us what kind of physical features we could find in a place. So we might see mountains, rivers, rainforest, deserts, things like that. A thematic map has a theme. Excuse me. So this map shows us the different climates of the world. This one shows us the different religions of the world and where they're practiced. Here we see life expectancy at birth. So the darker green it is, the longer people live there. The darker red it is, the younger people die there. We'll look at reasons later in the year for some of these, why some of these are more green and why some of them are more red. GDP, that's gross domestic product. So that's showing how much money people earn per square kilometer. So the darker red it is, the more money the people have there. The lighter yellow it is, the less money they have there. So if we take this map, we see the continent of Africa has a lot more yellow than it has red, especially compared to the continent of Europe or North America with the United States here. So we see all this yellow. We go to this next map and it looks really funny, but the smaller a place shrinks to, the less money they have. So you see the continent of Africa on this map almost disappears because the people there have that much less money than the people in North America or the people in Japan or China, for example. Okay, we're going to pause your screen here and go back into your vocab notes and add these 8 words. We're going to add our 3 types of maps: projection, distortion, and then the 3 different formats that maps are created in. So you can hit pause, add those, and then hit play when you're ready. Political map shows human features, so the things we created. These are the borders we've created. We divided continents into countries. We divided those up into states. We divided those up into cities. For your picture, for all of these words today, this isn't every day, but today, I recommend searching on Google for a political map and copying and pasting on here. You're going to do that for all 8 of these words. A physical map shows land formations and bodies of water. Some could also show elevation or vegetation, basically what is actually on the earth in that place. And a thematic map shows a category such as climate, religion, education, money, or others. So go ahead and pause, add these definitions, and add a picture for each one. A map is a projection. As you know, the Earth is a round sphere. So when you take something that is a round sphere and you try to make it into something flat, it's going to distort or stretch out different parts on that map. So the word projection just means showing a round globe on a flat map. Distortion is changing shape and size of things on the map. That happens because we're projecting. Go ahead and pause and add both of those. A Mercator projection is the format of a map that shows landmass near the equator accurately, but it gets distorted the further away you get from the equator. So for example, this is a Mercator projection. Look how huge Antarctica is. Antarctica is not nearly that big. Neither is Greenland. So right here near the equator, everything's the right size. But because this should all be wrapped around a sphere and it's been stretched out into a square, it causes these areas closer to the poles to be stretched out. Here's another example. Greenland looks like it's almost twice the size of USA. Greenland is nowhere near the size of the United States of America. On this map, Greenland looks like it's the same size as the continent of Africa, but in reality, Greenland would fit inside Africa like this. So these maps make it easy for us to see where everything is, but it does not show us the accurate size of things closer to the North Pole or the South Pole. An interrupted map projection looks like this. It's almost like you peeled an orange. Everything on this map is the correct size. The challenge with this map is measuring distance, because if we're measuring from Australia to Africa, we've got a gap in the map here. So we have to be willing to understand that this spot and this spot would be connected in real life on a globe. A Robinson projection is the most commonly used type of map. Instead of stretching all the way out to the corners like a Mercator map did, it curves the edges for us. So Antarctica is still too big. Greenland is still a little bit too big, but it isn't as bad as it was on a Mercator projection. As you can see here, Greenland's gigantic. Here it's still a little bit too big, but it helps us understand the actual size a little bit better. Interrupted map projection, it shows landmass correctly, but it's difficult to measure distance. The Robinson projection is the most commonly used map, and it's kind of like somewhere between the Mercator and the interrupted map when we're talking about the size of the different places. It's still distorted at the poles. Like I said earlier in the presentation, for these types of pictures, I recommend just searching for one on Google. Type in Robinson projection map, see what you get, and paste it in here. Okay, let's check for understanding. What is the most accurate way to show the Earth's continent and oceans? A globe. But we use maps anyway because they're more convenient, and we can zoom in further on them. What is the most common type of map used today? Robinson projection. That's the one that's between the interrupted map and the Mercator map. It's a little better than both because it's curved on the edges, but there's still some distortion at the poles. It looks like this. Remember, if we didn't have this curve here and we try to stretch it out to the side, it would just make Antarctica even larger. The unit of measure used to determine absolute location on a map or a globe is which of the following? degree. We use degrees because it is a sphere. This is something for you to think about and be prepared to answer for the next lesson. What is one way that you have interacted with the environment? Who was most affected by the interaction, you or the environment? Was the interaction positive or negative? Why? What are some examples of positive interactions that you can have in the future? Please email me with any questions.